am a human. I'm a Black man. I'm a writer. But I think more broadly, I'm a creative. I think I have a lot of interests that kind of span a lot of creative avenues. And so I think I'm a creative person. I like to think I'm a creative person. I'm a friend. That's yeah.
Which of the you're creative in many ways. Which one came first to you?
Music, absolutely.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah. So
And how did that come to you?
How did that start? Because I met you as an improver, you
Yeah.
know, and that so I'm like, oh, this guy's funny. In one, a great human being, because you said you're human. I was like, he was a great human being. He
so
showed
much.
love, and then the music for me came later on once you started like diving into it. So like she said, like where did that start, and how did it start, and what did it feed you?
Absolutely. So I am first generation born in the States. My parents are Jamaican. They're both born and raised in Jamaica. And they came here. They had my brother and sister. I'm the youngest of three. They were living in Chicago. They had me once they moved to Philadelphia, and that's where I grew up. And it's interesting because my parents, my mom, I believe, was a Seventh-day Adventist. And my dad was Catholic, but then they came to the States and they met this family in their neighborhood. And then this family had a pastor who was the head of the household, and he was the preacher at a Baptist church. So then they started going to that church, and they've been Baptists ever since.
Nice. He did a good recruitment on that one.
At the end of the day, it's all one. It's love, right?
God is God, love is love. You know what I mean? Like, and so growing up, I really, something about the saxophone really just spoke to me. Yeah, just a beautiful instrument. Like, I want to learn how to play that. And so in fourth grade, I tried to in school they allocate certain amount of instruments to certain kids. I don't know why, but like I didn't get picked in the lottery to get a saxophone, so I'm bummed. And they're like, you could play the trumpet or trombone. I'm like, I don't like either of those things.
Wow, at least they gave you those options. They gave me the recorder.
Yeah, we had a little recorder going on too. But Pastor Lockett had a saxophone. And so basically we had a drum set that my brother ended up not using, and he got into piano and singing. So we traded the drum set for the saxophone, and then I started playing the saxophone. Now, this is me. I would go to youth choir. I started playing the saxophone. And then I got it real quick. I could just, it's just something about it. It was very easy for me to learn. And after like a year, I was playing in church, maybe not even. And then after that, like kept learning, and then realized that like I didn't need sheet music. I could just play stuff by ear. Like if I could hear it, I could play it. And so every Sunday was me just playing along to praise and worship song, like Our God is an Awesome God, We Fall Down, all that stuff.
This little light of mine.
This little light of mine. Name the jam. Yeah, I played it on the horn. I played it on the horn. And so then in high school, I always had a love for hip hop too. So then in high school, I feel like it was like after some like field, they have like field day where you like do games and stuff. It was like we had off time during field day, and I feel like people started freestyling, and I like joined them, and it wasn't good. It was probably very bad. But
the second day you got better, and you was like opening up for Jay-Z because he caught on.
and on the second day he opened up for Jay-Z. No, I'm still not like a great freestyler, even though I love it. But that was the seed of my love for hip hop. And then throughout high school, I started selling like tape cassettes of my albums out of my backpack. And then by the time and I sell my albums and mixtapes. And then by the end of high school, I was selling actual CDs because that's how fast the technology was growing. And so was still playing the saxophone, went to UVA. I started a record label at UVA. And my plan was to go to law school so that I could understand the legalese of being in the music industry, but basically get on my ditty.
Yeah.
I mean, and so did that, graduated college, but then I realized I didn't want to go to law school. So now I'm in New York. I'm doing an advertising gig. I'm a brand strategist, and Rick, that's when I found UCB about 3 years into my time in New York. So this time I'm doing advertising and writing music for myself and for other people.
Okay.
And then I was like, I always was interested in acting, but I stumbled into the acting and writing, even though now that I look back on it, those were always the things that came easiest to me in addition to music.
Yeah.
And so then I started doing UCB. So I'm taking acting classes, I'm doing UCB, I'm a brand strategist, and I'm making music. So it's like I've been doing all these things for a while now. So I think like people in LA that didn't know me in New York, I think are surprised that I like just release music and stuff like that. But to your point,
I've
Rick,
been
like,
doing it forever.
it was the first thing.
Yeah.
It was the first creative thing. So
Nice.
I think that's why my journey always finds its way back to music, because at this point for me, it's therapeutic. It helps me process my thoughts and just keeps me stimulated. So that's kind of
that's awesome, and thank you for sharing that, because like I said, like, you know, now it all makes sense to like where this started, because I would not hear, but I would see little glimpse when you was an improviser doing that on the scene, certain things that you would share about music. I'm like, oh, I thought, to me it was like, well, maybe he learned this maybe like within the year, you know what I'm saying? Like, all right, and I will put this out. But it's crazy how it comes full circle, how music was the backbone and how you still go to it, and that was the number one love. Now you said that music was therapeutic for you and still is, and it filters your thoughts and stuff like that to get everything out. What does the writing and the comedy do for you that's different than the music?
Yeah, you know, I think the music, at least right now, the music is there's something like intangible about music and something so deeply personal about music that it's almost me saying, you know, I'll take often like years in between music projects. So it's almost like a balance sheet of like, here's how my energy has evolved or stayed the same over the past 3 years. Because that's the last time I released an EP. The writing side of things, honestly, it's a similar expression, but at least as far as my place in it, you know, I get my first solid writing job was Key and Peele. So it's like, I'm writing for them. This is, you tell me what your vision is, and I'm on your team. So I'm a role player in the most beautiful way. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I had no problems with that. I think it's honestly, I love being in a writer's room, but it's a different thing to be like, okay, let me sit in this room, get a feel for these guys and the other people that have worked here before, and figure out how my energy can match what they're trying to do, as opposed to walking in there and being like, here's what I'm trying to say with your show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not going to compliment because that's not their story. Your story and their story is different.
Did you learn that? Or did someone teach you that? Or that was something that you just went into like?
I think I went in knowing. Not only because, but largely because I worked a corporate job in advertising where it's like, that's all you're doing. It's like Vicks, NyQuil, you know, or you know, P&G's NyQuil. We're trying to say this. Your assignment is to get in the mind of the consumer, tell us what they're into, what they're not into, give us an insight. So for 7.5 years, really what I was doing was helping build brands. Do you know what I mean? And what is a TV show but somebody's brand that they're trying to market their vision to the world? So I think they're, in a weird way, they were like super connected. And I knew going in that like it was my job to find the voice of the show, find the insights for the show. And so it's just a different muscle. And I think, you know, now I'm at a point where I'm trying to get personal stories that I'm in charge of. So then I have a room that I get to lead, but I still think it's still going to be different from the music because, you know, just dialogue and scripts, as much as they are like music adjacent, I think it's just a different energy. And I think you have almost the ability to be a little bit more cerebral with music. Like you can be on the nose, you can be a little bit more cerebral, and it's just like they're two different lanes that I think are close to each other, but very different.
And I feel like with music, there's many also different sounds that you're dealing with. So not only are you sharing these sounds and trying to get these emotions and tell a story, and that's telling a story. On top of that, you have the lyrics. That's a different layer that you're portraying and sharing on that track as well. So it's like a big melting pot of different things. Which you can do with script, but it's a different movement with the music that has that. And I understand because playing guitar, it's a different feel to it. You know, telling a story, singing a story, being in the story. and then not saying anything, letting the sounds tell a story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the beginning, middle, and end of a song is different than the beginning, middle, and end of an episode of TV. Not just because it's shorter, typically, but it's just a different muscle. You know what I mean? It's like two different sports that kind of like, it'd be like soccer and basketball. It's like one is like a lot of cuts, and I don't know which one's soccer and which one's basketball. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? But both are both exciting sports and really, really engaging. But they have their own set of rules and their own kind of rules for engagement and enjoyment on the audience side of things too.
Yep.
How did directing come to play within all this as well?
For sure. Late discovery. So I worked on Key and Peele, and then, I didn't have to, but you can go to set anytime you want, and on Key and Peele, at least we could. So I would go to set for all of the sketches that I wrote, just to be like, wow, I'm here. I couldn't believe I did it. It was so, it felt, I mean, I still don't totally, I wrote on that. What? That's crazy.
Yo, not for nothing, but I was like super hyped for you. Like we knew, it's not like we knew each other since we was young, but that small amount of time that we had together and the love that you showed, it was like, it was very inspiring. And it wasn't about the name, but it was very inspiring. It's like, okay, this guy took what he does, what he loves, right? And now he earned a moment. That was a moment that was so dope. And it wasn't about the name. It's like, it showed that like, it's possible. It's possible. You work hard, you can do it. One of my friends just did it, and I see it continuously. And it kind of like motivated me more, not to chase the name, but to keep going and do it I'll do it out of the right place, out of love and the craft for it that you have.
Absolutely. And just to say it, you were always showing love too. So I appreciate you very much, man.
Thank you.
But it was one of those things. And also, I think the thing I learned was, well, I'm going to answer the directing thing.
Yes,
but to your point, I didn't know that writing was going to be my path. Like I thought when I was hustling in New York and doing all those improv shows, I was like, oh, like I am getting a reaction from the audience and I can feel myself getting better at this live performance thing. I think in addition to doing the acting class, I was like, I think the acting, if you had asked me 10 years ago what thing was going to get me to LA, I would have said for sure, I booked a pilot, or I got a couple of recurring roles and decided to go to LA and try and get it popping even more. I would not have said the writing thing, even though I've always been a pretty solid writer. So I think it's just being open to not changing the dream, but like sometimes the dream looks like a slightly different shade than the exact picture that you have in your mind. And then now I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I think this is how it was meant to happen. And it's not like it's not an accident that this happened before any type of acting stuff popped off. But to your question about the directing, so I would go to set on Key and Peele, loved it, loved watching it, loved seeing them get takes, get levels, all that different stuff. Then I got hired on Survivor's Remorse, which is a show on the Stars Network. Great experience. I was polishing my joke writing ability, and I think the showrunner picked up on that. So he's like, we're going to extend you. We're going to move you to Atlanta for a couple of months to be on set when we film the series, so you can give us punch up on set. So was immediately thrown into punching up on set, which I had never done before. Because on Key and Peele, I was just watching. I wasn't like, y'all should change this, or I wasn't telling those dudes.
I was just going to ask you, what's punching up? That's what that is.
I wasn't telling those dudes nothing. I wasn't telling them nothing. I was just watching.
Come on, man, you could punch that a little bit more. That's what I'm here for, baby.
I wasn't saying nothing, not a damn thing. You need something to eat? You need me to go get something? But, with an ensemble cast, it's a little bit different. And it is the type of thing where sometimes jokes don't.
But also, that probably also trained you by just shutting up and shutting the fuck up and just watching. So, like, it prepared you and this new journey that you didn't even know you was going to get to be a joke puncher.
Yep. And there were people giving them feedback on levels and stuff, but I wasn't on the level to do that yet. At least I didn't feel I was when I was working on.
But you probably was critiquing. I was like, you shouldn't do it that way.
I think my version of that is I was just a sponge. Let me just soak up all these nuggets. And so by the time I got on Survivor's Remorse, I was ready, according to that showrunner, and he was right. And so then it's like working with ensemble cast. adjusting jokes here because sometimes they work on paper and work in the table read, but then when it's on its feet on the day, it doesn't totally line up. So that's my job to be like, make this better right now. We need a joke in like 30 seconds. And so help my joke writing. And then in the middle of filming that season, I got hired on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And so left my on-set stuff early to start on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And it was at Brooklyn Nine-Nine where I know, okay, I love writing. I'm getting a little bit of momentum and I love being on set. So my first episode that I wrote for Brooklyn, you go on set when it's your episode as a writer. I had like they assigned me with somebody because I was new and I was like a story editor. So kind of a lower level writer. And I think by the time the middle of the week came, they like paired me up with a different person so they can get the other guy back to the room. And then he was basically like, Phil's good on his own. Like, I don't need to be here. Like, that's what he told the showrunner. Nice. So I think from that point on, I also expressed it. I was like, anytime you want me on set, I want to be on set. So I became like kind of the on set guy. Like if a new person came to Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I was there for 4 seasons. I would a lot of times be the guy that would go to set and be like, okay, here's typically how we do things. Here's the best way to talk to this actor. He likes to be approached this way. Here's how we coordinate with the director, blah, blah, blah. And then in the fourth year, I was like, man, I'm on set a lot. I'm talking to these directors. They're a lot of times checking in with me to make sure we're getting everything. And I'm like, I think I might be able to do this. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like kind of a big, bold thing. But I was like, I think this is how it goes. I think that's, you gotta ask if you're feeling it. So I felt it and I asked. Nice. I just done a short film too with one of the cast members, Melissa Fumero. So I think all of those things together, and I didn't even make that short film with the idea of using it as a tool to get directing for the Brooklyn. I did it because I love this little script, this little 7-page script I wrote, and she was willing to do it. And then all of a sudden, just following my heart kind of made everything work out. And so then I directed an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and that's kind of how that came together. So yeah.
Damn, yeah.
How was that for you when
I'm
you?
Gonna give you some claps on that. Hold up.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you. Appreciate it. And it was fun, and I loved it, and I want to direct more. I love it so much. I was
just gonna ask you that. Like, do you
absolutely
want to keep directing? Nice.
Yeah, I want to keep directing. Yeah.
I want to ask you, like, I know I saw you also wrote some sketches that I've like UCB days that that were dope. But what I loved about it, that it wasn't, and this is how I write as well. It's just not so much about the joke, but the substance of it. And what are we laughing about? What are we poking about? Which is it's just not a dick joke, which is dick jokes are fun, but it's like, what about this dick joke? Like, can we get deep about it? And I always admired you about that. And I want to know now, like, because you mentioned that when you're on these shows, you're writing for their voice. Is it hard to juggle your voice as well, knowing that, like, man, this would be dope if I could add this to it, but this is coming, from Phil's voice. Do you ever battle that way? It's like, damn, I just don't only want to write for their voice as well. I want to put me into this as well with my voice and see how it plays out. Is that a common like struggle that you have to learn or something?
I think it could be, and I think that would happen if being in a writer's room and writing to align with someone else's vision was the only thing I did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think whenever I get that urge, or I think I avoid that urge by doing the short film, by making my music. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So it's like it almost keeps me sane to be like, okay, today I'm writing, this story. It's like I'm pitching on this story. And, on Brooklyn, it was like, we're talking, 22 episodes, 21 episodes, 18 episodes. So literally I would start other scripts to make for the very point that you're bringing up, so that, I don't lose a sense for my voice. And the good thing about that, in every writer's room I'm in, my goal was to look at the top and be like, okay, what do they know that I don't know? How can I make myself better? How can I make myself smarter? How can I keep polishing my instrument? Actually not even the top, because sometimes you'll get a staff writer who just is so good at pitching in a particular way. So it's really just, I kind of look at it flat, where it's like the inspiration and the learning can come from anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't know what experience they have that you haven't. And so I think I avoid that by staying by staying hungry to create my own stuff on the side.
How do you separate the writing when you're writing for a show and you're writing for yourself? Like, how do you do one day like the show? How do you do that? How you separate that?
Well, I think now it's at a point where they're like the side things are like actual jobs now, which I'm very thankful for.
That's
like
great.
I'm writing this feature right now, and it's like, yeah, this is a thing that like is a paid thing. So it's like, and this is kind of the first time that's happening where I'm writing on a show, but also the thing that I'm doing to kind of make sure my voice is also a job too. So like, that's been I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, thank you. But it's it's one of those things where I'm not a habitual writer, to be real. Like I'm not a well, right now I am, because just the time, like my schedule is crazy. Yeah. So I've been getting up in the morning and getting my pages and my personal stuff done. But typically, when things are a little less busy, I it's just kind of here. Do you know what I mean? And
whatever comes.
I'll sit on an idea for like a year. Real talk. I'll sit on an idea for a year, and then I'll bang out the script in a month or 2 months. Nice. And then spend another 4 months rewriting it, polishing it, getting it to a place where it needs to be. You know what I mean?
Now, how does that affect you? I was gonna
just like burst, yeah.
How does that affect you when there's the deadlines now? Like where, like, I feel like you could not crash and burn, but now you have not some type of pressure of like you got deadlines now, but then also like for instance, your own personal thing now got picked up that you're writing for your feature, and now you're also writing for another show that I want to get into, which is a great show that I fucking love, Insecure. But now it's kind of like now you have two deadlines of something that you really love to do, which is your own personal baby, and then you have this other job that you also that's your job, and you love it too, and now you probably got deadlines for both. So how do you keep this type of zone of like not crashing and burning and like still taking it from the heart, but now it's timed in the sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think what I'm still figuring it out is the honest answer.
That's great.
But I think it's as soon as it becomes a paid thing, it's a job. So that's why I've been blocking out time. So like before work starts at 9, I'll get up at 7, right from like 7:30 up until work starts at 9 through the week, and then spend 2 to 3 hours on the weekend doing that, like just consistently. Like I am a creature of habit. So I think at the moment that it becomes a real job, I think my mind was just like, oh, then block out hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, like, and honestly, what I was doing for the feature thing was 7 pages a week. It's not due anytime super soon.
Okay.
If I get 7 pages a week done, 1 page a day, just 1 page a day, I can do 1 page a day. And if I miss a couple of days and have to do 7 pages on Sunday, I can do 7 pages on a Sunday. Like I can do that. So it's really
it's realistic too.
Yeah. It's realistic and just being intentional, and then staying out of my own way. Cause I think that's the problem with writing. Like I always say, judge the draft and not the process. Trying to like
that's a good one.
extinguish that part of myself that says, "Why is this any good? What are you doing? Like what? Why'd you write that way?" Do you know what I mean? It's just getting it down, because chances are, if I'm excited to write about it, and if I'm being paid to write it, chances are someone else believes in it. So let me just get this draft down and quiet those demons in my head that like are like, you're a fraud, or you know what I mean, all that shit. So
what helps you when those things kick in? Like I guess we have the same we have the same mind. But what helps you in those moments? Because everyone's different, and it's not about what you booked so far, and those are great success stories. But like you said, these things still come in any shapes and form at any moment. And what helps you in those moments, or maybe take a walk, or what helps you in those moments to get rid of those?
That's the number one thing I do is take walks.
I remember reading that about you.
Yeah,
is it 3 miles, 7 miles?
Yeah, 5 miles. I mean, honestly, before the air quality here right now is terrible. So I've been kind of. I got this spin bike, so I've been on that a bunch, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
I like to just get lost in my thoughts. I've come up with fixes to stories that I've been stuck on. I've had new ideas. I've had thoughts about my personal life, all on walks. The longer the better. And before the shutdown, before the quarantine here, or actually once the quarantine hit, because you could still go outside or whatever, I was walking 8 miles a day, because it was like I had a pilot, and it was like I was working on that, and it was just like being like, oh, this is kind of stressful, but I'm thankful that I'm here. This is what I've been working towards. Let me take this long walk and just like get lost in my thoughts. And sometimes I get answers to stuff just thinking about it, but sometimes it would just be about resetting. You know what I mean? And so the walking is the biggest thing. I love wine, so a glass of wine and talk with my friends.
Okay.
I'll listen to music. I'll make a lot of that is like making music is also, as much as it is therapeutic, it is a release in a way. So it's like, well, let me just go over here and be creative in this way where the stakes are all up to me. You know what I mean? I don't owe anybody anything when it comes to this music. I do it for me. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, I tried. You know. So those are I'd say those are the things.
What is your favorite part of like what comes to mind? What your favorite part of like when you're about to start an episode or figuring out an episode, breaking it down? What is your favorite part of the writing process for that? And what is your favorite part of the music process when you're getting for it?
My favorite part of the writing process is finishing. It is so difficult. Oh man, writing is such a weird struggle. I feel like you hear this all the time. It's like writing is like such a weird. It's like painful. It's like it's fun in moments. You know what I mean? But like it feels like mental labor. So my favorite part is finishing. If I'm being real. The starting is the hard part. That what is it? Static energy is that takes the most energy, right? Kinetic is when you're already going. So it doesn't take much energy, right? So I think it's been a while since physics or whatever, but I think
I never took that class, or I probably failed
it. Bro, it wasn't my lane either.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with what you're saying, bro.
But it's getting started is the hardest part. But I think, after getting started, actually, I think starting is the hard part. That's like that, just being motivated and sitting down and looking at the blank page and being like, oh man, I'm trying to fill this with 35 pages. I'm trying to fill this with 110 pages, 120 pages. That's the most daunting thing to me. But kind of once you have 10, 15, once you get through the exposition and the pipe of why the story is happening and you get to play with the characters, as hard as writing is, it is fun to discover your moments in your script. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure, I don't know, Rick, you might feel the same with like your one-man show, like the Naked Show, right? It's like, I don't know what that was like for you to start, but like starting a thing is just like, it's really, really difficult. And there's something freeing about knowing that, oh, if I got 10 pages, then I probably had 20 pages. And if I had 20 pages, I probably have 30 pages. And if I have 30 pages, I might be done if it's a pilot. But if it's not, if it's a movie, then you go 40, 50, 60 until you finish. Until you finish that script, you know what I mean? So
no, absolutely, I agree. I think for me, like I always say, like the most scariest thing is looking at a blank piece of paper. Like when I did the first show and I went through the whole struggles of it, and the drafts and learning to trust the process, and with the vision that I had, how I think the ending was going to be, but how it actually went out naturally. It was like a great ride for me. But then now writing a second show and like looking at the screen again, I was like, oh shit, what am I gonna write now? Like,
or when you have a lot to write and you don't know how to put it together.
So now with the third show that I was writing, that's where I was at, where I was like, I have so much that happened in the last 2 years. Where do I fucking start? And it was like so tough. But like you said, but once you start getting into it, you start realizing certain things. You start finding the love again and the fun of it, and the therapeutics for me, the therapeutic sense of it for it, like just everything that I was reliving again and learning from it about it. I think for me, and I shared this in another episode, that's what intrigued me to create my own stuff, because I'm not just auditioning to be, a crack dealer or a Spanish, rapist and stuff like that. I'm showing a side of me growing up in the projects and my life through the years, and giving it substance and showing you that, through every negativity is a positive way to look through it and also make fun of it, So
and as people of color, I think, it's always good to show that like we have depth and dimension, and we are not just the stereotypical parts that we get the casting notices for. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's the best way to do things, to kind of create your own stuff. And to that point, like I think you and your stage show, like that was actually my first that's when I really discovered that I could write comedy. So I was taking the scene study class at Michael Howard Studios, like in Midtown or something like that. And there was this guy who after class would write these short little like little short fun plays that are like meant for like elementary school kids. And they were so good and so funny. I was like, this guy, I didn't know we could do that in a scene study class, but the teacher was down for it. So then I was like, all right, well, I've got this idea. So let me bring in one scene. And then she let me workshop that scene. People seemed really into it. And then the next week I brought in another scene, and then I had my first play. And then I produced that play at the 13th Street Repertory Theater. And then we were, 70-seat theater. We filled out for like a year or so.
Nice.
And then I was like, wait a second, people are laughing at this stuff. I wrote that show. And at the time I was like, I'm an actor who wrote a play, not knowing that. Fast forward to now, it's like, no, I was a writer who was acting in his own play. Do you know what I mean? I had to find that discovery. But all that to say, I totally relate to your desire to create your own stuff. It's the best way to do things. And honestly, not only did it help me, show that I'm castable and I'm multidimensional, but it's like, it also helped me realize that I'm a writer. Yeah, that was like, I didn't even, I really didn't know. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
How did this insecure thing just fall on your lap? Probably didn't fall on your lap, but I'm just saying, I'm seeing one post, and you don't post much on Instagram, but every time you did post, it was like, this motherfucker got another job. Damn, he got another. And it's like everything that I like. I was like, God damn, like what? I hope he ain't an Illuminati. He better not be an Illuminati. No. So I was I hope he's doing it the legit way. But how does this insecure? Was you a fan before when you watch it? And also, like, how did you get this opportunity? You don't gotta give the full details, but how did this opportunity come where you're like, oh shit, I guess I'm a writer now, Insecure?
Absolutely. Right. So I was at Brooklyn, and I think the one, I think a thing like if I could get like as a writer, if you just as long as you're fully invested in the job that you're at and doing the best you can, like that is the best thing to do. Because I know like a lot of writers ultimately want to have their own shows, but it's like cutting your teeth and going brick by brick is always the best way. I'm probably saying things that people already know, but like I was just focused on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I knew I really wanted to be a showrunner at some point. That's still a dream of mine. But it was about doing the best I could on that show. It turns out that the season that I started, the season before that, there's this guy named Prentice Penny. Now, Prentice Penny is the showrunner of Insecure. He left Brooklyn Nine-Nine to go showrun the first season of Insecure and has been the showrunner ever since. Great guy. So we actually became friends on Instagram because I posted a picture with a fellow writer, David Phillips, who worked with both of us. But I'd never met Prentice, and Prentice commented on it and was like, "Oh, so you just replaced me with another black guy, like as a joke or whatever?" And I was like, "Who is this guy? I don't even know who this guy is. What are you talking about?" I go, "That's Prentice. He worked here last season." And then I go read about him and that he's on Insecure, and I was such a huge fan of. I am such a huge fan still of that show. Like that's the type of show where I was gathering with the homies to like watch it. Do you know what I mean? That's
our date night.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Prentice and I basically just had a digital friendship going. Like he was making moves, I was making moves, and we would always just give each other love and just like, it just went like that. And then after season 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, my fourth season on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he just messaged me and was like, "Hey, I don't know what your situation is at Brooklyn, but let me know if you'd be interested in interviewing for a job at Insecure. I could set it up with Issa, blah, blah, blah. I'd meet with you first to see if what's what. And then if everything goes well." And so I met him in person for the first time interviewing for the job. Wow. So we were just like ships that passed in the night, but like he was hustling. Clearly he worked so hard. And I think maybe based off of my social media and just in the messages that we had sent, he just maybe got the sense that I would be a good fit. We met in person. It felt like I was just talking to a guy I'd known my whole life. Met with Issa. I think she was filming Lovebirds at the time.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if that time or the letter. I don't even know. Yeah. She was filming a movie. So when we met over like Skype, she was in her trailer. We talked for a bit, and honestly, I think we hit it off there. We hit it off too. And so I got the offer like a couple of days later. And then the tough part was like, okay, I feel a real connection to the folks at Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I've learned a tremendous amount. That's where a lot of my growth, I started as a story editor, ended as a supervising producer. Like that's where I learned a lot of my stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was hard to leave, but it felt like the right time. 4 years. It's like going to college. You know what I mean? For writing, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, Dan Gore, the showrunner and creator of Brooklyn, and I totally understood. And then I started up on Insecure.
How was it now being in the writer's room with Insecure? Like, I know you had the same goals. Like, I'm just gonna like fill in those voices. But were you worried about like, okay, I meshed well with the showrunner, I meshed well with Issa. How am I gonna fit now with other writers in here? And also you're a fangirl, right? So you're like, man, I fucking love this show. Like, so
love this show.
So now you're in the. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fangirl still of the show, and I say it. I'm like, I love this show. I don't think creators of shows ever mind hearing that people love the thing that they make, especially the people that are writing on the show in a world where it's so hard to. A lot of being in a writer's room is hopping around from job to job. So you climb faster. I'm like, no, I'm here to work on it. To the point where the job took place in Manhattan Beach Studios. I live in Los Feliz. That's a really, really, really long commute. So I just moved to Redondo. And so I moved there so that I wouldn't have to deal with the commute and so that I could really just focus on the job. And then it turns out while I was working on that show, that's what inspired the Redondo Tape, my latest EP. But I was absolutely nervous. Absolutely. I don't know. Like, it's like I knew I was comfortable at Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I had to tell myself the point was to be nervous. The point was to test yourself. Yeah. That's the point. And no better way to test yourself than a thing that you actually are a super fan of. So I was nervous about, 2 good interviews does not mean I'm a good fit in the room. That means I had 2 good interviews and we'll see. But so I was there to try and do the best I could for everybody in the room, Issa and Prentice included.
When did it click for you that you proved to yourself that like I fit and I am worthy of this and I earned this, and I'm going to accept all the growing pains and also the happy moments is going to come with this job?
Yeah. I think it was like a couple weeks. I felt like, that first week, I think for everybody's a little like, we went on a retreat. Do you know what I mean? So like we were in Palm Springs for like most of the week. So like, that's just a lot of brainstorming and getting a feel for each other. But once we got into the offices, I think we were pitching on the premiere. And then I just remember like pitching and then just like, even if the pitch didn't go, I remember pitching and being like, oh, that was a good way to pitch for this show. You know what I mean? Gotcha. And so I take that moment and then just build on that. And then all of a sudden I'm getting pitches in. Do you know what I mean? It's always just adjusting the jump shot until it goes in. And then now you know how to shoot a jump shot on this show, So it took a couple of weeks. And then once we were, I think on Brooklyn, I really got to sharpen my joke writing skills. So once we started pitching jokes for like the outline and jokes on the script, I think that also was when I was like, oh, I did learn a lot on Brooklyn and Survivor's Remorse and Key and Peele, and it's all contributing to what I'm doing here, while also still having to adjust and figure out, okay, but what is it about this show that I need to keep in mind when I am pitching?
Have you directed in Insecure, or would you like to?
I would love to. I have not.
Not yet.
Not yet.
The thing about that show is like it's so stylized. That would be an absolute dream. Yeah. Absolute dream. And that slice of life, dating, relationships, friendships, that's like my goal is to do not my version of Insecure, but like to deal with similar topics but through my lens. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would love to, but I think I was gonna say the real estate that they actually have for folks to direct in a 10 episode order is not as easy as it is for
a 22 episode
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where it's like I direct episode 607 and it's like well there was 18 that season, so it's like it's a lot easier
to pick from.
Exactly.
Or try to tell Issa use one of your songs, man. That alone song is dope. Hey, or get it. I can hear it in Insecure. I can hear it.
I love where your head's at.
Yo, get it. Get it? I'll DM her. I'll send her DMs right now. And I was like, yo, put my boy Alone on. Put my boy Get It.
It was so fit there.
Oh man, I appreciate y'all. I'm just happy to be in the room. I'm not pushing that agenda.
Definitely.
But
if I was in that writer's room, I would have put the music on full blast. I'm like, damn, this sounds great with this episode.
Who is this?
Who is this? Man, it goes perfect. Read the first 10 pages to this real quick.
Oh man.
Yo, what can you share about the first 2 episodes? I saw y'all and Issa posted. She said writer's room. Right. What can you share some more about the first episode? Is it dope? It's going there. Y'all going there? It's dope.
It's gonna be dope. I can tell you. I wrote episode 2.
Woo! Nice.
But the way that they write, it's like almost like you're like the project manager for the episode. It's in most writers' rooms. It's like you write the draft, and then like the room really gets their fingerprints on it. But in Insecure, it's like you're like almost like the big P, like project manager on the episode, and like for every single episode, like basically there's an Issa room and apprentice room. And then, so, the Issa room does the premiere and the apprentice room is doing 502. So I was in the apprentice room for my episode. And then like, it's like we each get scenes to write, and then we do an assembly draft. And then you just have like a little bit more of a voice when it's your episode to be like, oh, I like this joke. Oh, how about thinking about this? So it's like definitely you get your fingerprints on it. But of all the shows that I worked on, this is the first one where every episode from like its inception is like group written.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered the question. If I was just
it does. Yeah. How do you adjust to everybody touching your shit? Like, how did even though it's a group effort, right? But I would assume like sometimes not the ego, but like, but I like that. Like, why are you here? It's ego, but getting used to like people just taking what you have and like changing it, and like
just
how did you learn to like whatever? I get it. That's part of
it. That is the job. Like I feel like being in a writer's room is like baseball. Like you're good if you bat like 300, you're like an all-star. Do you know what I mean? Gotcha. Like 300, like 30%. You know what I mean? So it's like you just got to get used to pitching, and I think it's as long as I think to our earlier point in the conversation, as long as you're not pitching selfishly, like they need to do this because I know this is best. And it's more about, this is what this is what I'm hearing story-wise from the people that are in charge. And I'm going to pitch because I want to contribute, as opposed to I'm pitching so that it's my way. I think as long as you don't have the my way lens, you're good to go. And it's just, and a lot of times as like what I gather being on the other side of it, it's like when you're a creator or a showrunner, it's like you have the room, a diverse room assembled so that you can hear ideas that work and hear ideas that don't work. And sometimes the idea that doesn't work helps lead you to the right idea, because it's like, oh, you had your mind, you're thinking in the right way because you have the best show's interest in mind, but that's not the right pitch. But now I know that that's not a territory we want to go in. That's still valuable. Hearing a pitch that comes from the right place but isn't right for the episode or the show is still valuable to know what you don't want to do with your characters or your storyline,
I have a question. How overall, as a creative in all aspects, how have you changed in the last like 10 years? What have you seen?
About himself?
Yeah, about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll start personally. I think, I'm in my mid-30s now, so I think
you've done a lot, so
thank you. Yeah, I think I'll go personally, then I'll go professional creative. As a person, I think when you hit your 30s, you become a little bit more self-actualized. Like I think now I'm like, okay, here are the things about myself that I know. These are things I know I do. These are behaviors I know I exhibit. And these are the things I want to work on. And I'm just a little bit more mindful, and I think just a little bit more comfortable with myself than I was when I was in my 20s. And I think I was very ambitious in my 20s, but I was still finding it. I was still finding the dreams that I wanted to attain, still finding my voice. So I think all that to transition into creatively, I think I'm still searching and refining my instrument and my voice, but I think I've got in the past year, actually, I think I've really started to feel like, oh, I think I have a sense for my voice, like really how I can be funny, how I can be impactful, how I can resonate with people doing me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's what the past 10 years has been, just figuring out how to do me, you know? Mm-hmm. And so musically, I think it's like the music now feels like, oh, like I figured out, like I know how to produce music, but I think I might be better served bringing on a producer so that I can really focus on the performance side of things. So it's like knowing enough about myself to be like, okay, here's how I need to collaborate to make the best product. I think a lot of that goes a long way too. And I think on the writing side of things, I've just gotten better because rinse and repeat, you know, sketch, you know, writing sketch, you know, I went to a sketch masterclass, you know, with Key and Peele. I went to a narrative masterclass with Survivor's Remorse. I went to a joke writing and story masterclass with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And now I'm at like a kind of like a convergence of all those things, but then Black culture with Insecure. Do you know what I mean? And so I think I've just been, it's almost like I've been in school, you know?
How important is that for you to, cause you're very, you know, like being into writing for a show that speaks for you, like Black culture but not in a negative light, in a positive light. How important was that for you to, I guess, to make that a priority in your own personal projects, and also now, and if for yourself, and now also being in a project like Insecure on HBO, you know?
Yeah. What's interesting is that like Key and Peele, like they're Black dudes, you know what I mean? Like, Survivor's Remorse, the showrunner was a white man, but that's a Black show. Like all the cast members were Black. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, not a Black show outright, but very diverse cast. I think the thing about Insecure is it feels in a way that I can't fully, maybe I'll find the words, but like it feels like it is like it's like so of the moment in a special way, you know what I mean? And like in Issa's vision for it, like feels so relatable. Like I don't know that I've written on a narrative show that like really seems to have galvanized culture, Black culture in a way that the other shows that I've written on, all amazing shows. I think I've really lucked out with the shows I've gotten to write for. But there's something about like the tone of Insecure, the look of Insecure that I think differentiates it. And every job I have has been different, but I think that just one big difference. But my whole thing was I just want to write for shows that I like. Like I feel fortunate that that's been the case, but like I also live like pretty simply, you know, like I pay less in rent than I did when I was in New York as an advertising executive, even though I've kind of been climbing the ranks, because it's like there's a part of me that's like I don't ever want to have to take a job because I need this job right now. You know what I mean? So I think that's what's allowed me to kind of navigate and go from show to show that is like, oh, you know, Key and Peele. Well, Key and Peele that just happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, but then to go to Survivor's Remorse, it's like, yeah, I like what this show is saying. I like the tone of this show. I'm going to go here. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I've watched a couple episodes of this show. I think it's really good. Let me go over here. And then Insecure feels like a whole different experience. But like we're saying, we're all fangirls of that show. So it's like that felt like a next natural step. So I just always want to be able to make decisions that
because you want to, not because you.
Yo, how do you remain true? What I found so like throughout this whole thing, like what I found so inspiring for me, because you see a lot of people that lose and humbling. You see a lot of people lose themselves, and you see a lot of people that, for instance, that like, you know, from the small amount of time that I knew you, you know what I'm saying, doing this interview, you know what I'm saying, like there's other people's like it was like, nah, right? I wouldn't do it because I guess you don't have a following, you don't have a name. But he's so humble. Yeah. How do you not allow? And I appreciate that, you know. And I'm always connect to humble people because I always help out people out of love and respect and being good human. But how do you not allow? Because you're in this world now, you know, Hollywood and all that stuff. How do you not allow those things that you see or maybe be around get to your head and you know inflate your ego or change the pureness of who you are? How do you remain true to yourself in that environment? And I know, you know, you probably stick close to a couple people that still bring you down, but even still, you have many choices that you could go the other way.
Absolutely. You know, I think one, it's the tribe. LA is, you know, like the the stereotypes and tropes, a lot of them are true. Like it is easy to get lost in a town like this. It is easy to feel lonely in a town like this. But I'm fortunate enough that I've got like a group of dudes who like are creative, trying to work hard, trying to get this work, and also are like, it's about making art and about being creative, and less about like, let's get this clout. You know what I mean? Like I really, really, my goal for my career is to have as much creative autonomy as possible so I can make the things I want to make. But nowhere in there is like I want to be able to, you know, I want to be famous and rich and blah, blah, blah. I want to live comfortably, like I think most people do. I want to live comfortably making my art. Like that's always been the dream. Do you know what I mean? And so I think I'm making decisions through that lens, and I'm surrounding myself with people who are also feeling the same way. Let's figure out a way to have more autonomy to tell our stories. And honestly, I think, you know, there's also a part of me that's like, I don't know, like what's funny and what's resonating with people and what's hot it's fleeting. Like who's to say that I'm going to be working like this in 2 years? Maybe. So part of me's like, I got to take advantage of it now and really like, really try and get to the things and do the things that I'm enjoying now and not take that stuff for granted. And getting lost to me would mean not appreciating the position that I'm in. And I think the minute that happens, I'm like, I'd be so disappointed in myself if I was writing on Insecure and being like, man, why am I here? I should be blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like, no way. What? You asked me 10 years ago, be on an HBO, writing on an HBO show? I wouldn't believe you. I think it's like just hanging on to that part of myself that recognizes how fortunate I am to be in the spot. That I'm in.
It goes to show that like the I remember there's the couple things I always hear is like, keep working hard, keep doing what you love, and always treat people nicely. Like just be a good human. And then like you'll see like those three things a lot of people don't have. And it's like, you may think it's so easy, but a lot of those three things people don't have. But if you do have it, you're going to see these opportunities come out of nowhere and take you to these different avenues. And for me, it seems like you have done that and you continue to do that. And even if you tried to be something else, it just wouldn't mesh well with you because that's not how you was brought up or raised.
Yeah. And I think I agree with that. And I think to that point, it's like, I like that, like what makes me happy is having a bunch of stuff to work on. Like, that's like, that is me at my happiest. Being on somebody's show, trying to make that show as good as possible, having a movie to write, having some music to write, staying busy, and then having a glass of wine. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of my jam. So I agree with everything. I agree with everything you're saying.
I want to jump into now before we go, the music. And that's to me that it's very key to all this. I got the writing stuff out of me. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I got those questions from, but this EP, take us down. How long you was working on it? What was the process to like, all right, I'm build up the courage to do this? Why is this different? I'm throwing all these questions out, but answer it as best as you can. Why is this different from the first EP? What did you learn from all this, doing it from the first to this one? And also, you probably did it during the whole same time of writing all this stuff. So take us down that journey and share it.
All right. So the first EP, I mean, this might be like my 15th project if you really go back to like 16 years ago, you know, when I was in high school. But the last EP was 3 years ago. So if we go from there, that one was called New Palm Tree. I had been in LA like 6 years or so, and I was like, I've been in LA three or 4 years. In any case, it was 3 years ago, and you know, I'd taken some time, and then I was like, I think it's about time to start making some music again. But I didn't know where to start, and like my production equipment was a little outdated. Started writing on Insecure, moved to Redondo Beach for half a year, and I, you know, taking these walks by the pier during sunset. I was like, man, I think, and also my core friend group doesn't live in Redondo, so it was my weeks were just for me. And it was actually nice, kind of having that time to kind of just focus on the job, have time to myself, clear my head. So I got inspired to make music again. My friend Brandon Young, from childhood, he was an actor here. He was an actor on The Wire, but he's a dope rapper, dope MC. And he was like, you should link up with my boy Nick Lee, young guy. He's like 22, 23 now, and he's a producer. You guys would get along. I text Nick. Nick gets back to me. He's like, yeah, let's work. He starts sending me beats. So this is last year, 2019, June. He sends me beats. I'm like, oh yeah, I like this one and this one. And then September, I'm not rushing. I'm not in any rush to get it done. I'm like, I'm going to take my time with it.
Nice.
September, I meet him in person for the first time. We record Rolling Up. That's the first song we did. I was like, okay, this is like, right down the middle, kind of classic rap, trap inspired song. Let's keep it going. And then I think we did John after that. I got inspired. I was on the beach with my girl, and the melody just came to my head. So all of a sudden we got John. Then, stuff started happening with a couple other projects, got quiet. He's still sending me beats, but then the lockdown happens. And I'm like, okay, I got this pilot over at NBC that got put on hold. So now I got a little bit more time. Insecure hasn't started yet, So I can't meet with Nick in person. He moved himself to the mountains and just was producing for people up in the mountains. But I was like, well, let me use this time because now I'm feeling really inspired musically. And so I bought like a computer, a microphone, a preamp. It's in this closet right behind me in there. My studio's in there. And I finished the EP in there. So I would track it at my place, send it to Nick. He would put his touches on it, send it to my boy Sam Sherbin in New York. Sam would master it. Once we're good with the mastering, we send it to this guy Alex, who's also in New York. And then, we finished the Redondo tape. I want to say we finished tracking it in June, nice. May or June, and probably like June. And then at this time I was like, let me just put a little bit more behind it. The music felt elevated relative to other stuff I had released, so I got a PR team to just try and push the music and get it places. And so it ended up on NPR and stuff like that because of the PR team. Put it on Spotify. This is my first album on Spotify. So that's how it came together. But really the tape itself is just about, it's just like I was saying, it's just a reflection on insecurities, on love, on heartbreak, on new fresh relationships, on walks. Like Headspace is just a song about walking around the city. You know what I mean? So it's just a snapshot of like where my mind's at and where it has been.
That's what it felt like to me when I was going through it. Like it felt like a collection of things that was in your head that you was, speaking about and releasing on. Like it wasn't like, a traditional beginning, middle, end. It's like on this day, this is what I felt, this is what I feel. Even like Get It, I feel like is one of those things that you're amping yourself up about it. Like not in a cocky way. It's like I feel like it's like I'm going to get it. I'm working hard. I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? That's how I took it. And
a motivational song.
Yeah, a motivational song. You know what I'm saying? And I really was impressed. Honestly, and I was not saying that I doubted you. I was like, oh, because people always drop something, and I finally checked it out. I was like, this is actually really good. This is
Thanks
really
so
dope.
much, brother. Thank you.
And then to hear that it's going to be in the next season of Insecure is even doper. But
man, you gotta stop
putting it out
there. I'm just saying.
Man.
But I think that was pretty dope, man. What was how did you feel like actually
after releasing?
Yeah, after releasing it, because and getting it done, because I know that's like for writing was like getting it done is like my favorite part. So how did it feel for you to get it all on I was gonna say on paper, but all on musically and digitally, and then now it's out to the world because now it serves a purpose for you. Now it's for everyone.
Well, it's a little different than the writing. I actually enjoy being in the booth. I enjoy taking a little sip, getting a little smoke, and just like kind of vibing out. But it felt good to have it out there. I definitely felt like it was my best music yet, but I was still, terrified, like nervous, just like the natural, like, well, I think this thing is good, but like, I don't, you just never know. Like art is subjective. So you really never know. You truly never know. But it felt really good to release it. It felt really good. My buddy JD did the artwork. So it felt like I wanted to treat it like an art piece. So like you look at the artwork for the single and the album, and that should match the tone of the music. And I, made sure to not skip any steps as far as like really polishing it, getting my mastering guy and my mixer are really, really great. My producer's amazing. So it felt nice to have it out there, but I was definitely nervous about it. And I also didn't know which song, Get It and Alone those are the 2 singles, but I wasn't even gonna have Get It be the second single. Like I had to like ask a couple friends and like, and then, and then I talked to my girl and she was like, I think Get It might be the next joint. And I was like, really? Then I asked my producer, he's like, Get It. And then all of a sudden now it seems like, oh, Get It is the one. Like I never would have thought that was the one. So in a pleasant way, it's nice, making my picks and my guesses for which horse is going to win the race or be popular among the disc, and seeing that it wasn't really what I expected, but I'm really, really happy with how it's being received for sure.
Yo, how supportive were your parents with everything that you have fucking done? Like, it wasn't like just, I'm an actor staying on this thing. It was like actor, writer, saxophone, improviser, rapper, poetry. You also did poetry, so you still do. So it's like,
you still play the sax?
I do, yeah. So I got a soprano in the back, yeah.
Nice. So, like, what were your parents saying? Like, what was their mindset of like, what is this kid doing? I hope he like makes it out and focus on one thing. But as creators, I can relate. Like, these are many different hats that we wear that brings us joy.
Yeah, they knew they've known that I love music, obviously, because they're the ones that got me the saxophone. They worked that deal out with my pastor, but they've always known that I've had multiple interests. I think I've kind of been this way for a while. And I think for them, all they really want is for me to be able to provide food and shelter for myself. They want to make sure I'm good. So when I said I didn't want to go to law school, I think they were like, but not only would that be a way for you to provide food and shelter for yourself, but like a lot of food and a lot of shelter. If you end up being a lawyer, like Phil, you can do this. But when I told them like that's not where my heart is, that they totally understood. Then I get into advertising, and they don't really know what a brand strategist is, but then they start to understand how hard it is to get that type of job. And like, I've been going, I'm climbing the ranks in the advertising gig, and I'm explaining what I'm working on. I'm pitching new business with like higher ups and stuff like that. Now they're like, okay, our son's an advertising executive. We get this. Great. Go. And then when I say, okay, I'm leaving to go write for a TV show, they're like, my mom was literally like, so are you going to write and then come back? I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not. I'm done with advertising. Like, I'm done with that, hopefully forever. And so every step along the way, I think they've been very supportive. And I think any hesitation is just like, are you going to be good? Like, are you going to be good? Like, are you going to be
as long as they see the paycheck and say, okay, you can pay your rent. Okay, good.
Over your head, you're eating. My son's not losing weight.
Yeah. And I think now, like, my middle name for like entertainment stuff is Augusta. That's my mom's middle name, actually. My actual middle name is Anthony. Okay. So like you could follow the trajectory of them figuring out that like, oh, I'm actually having a career in writing, because it was like, I was like, for this writing stuff, like I'm gonna go with like Phil Augusta Jackson. I think maybe even when I act, I'm just gonna be Phil Augusta Jackson for entertainment stuff. And I was like, you have a middle name. It's Anthony. Come on, son. Like, why would you take mine? And then now I think it's like a total badge of honor. She's like, oh yeah, it's great. Augustus, you use my middle name. Great. I love seeing it come up. So they've been very supportive, and I think part of it too is they came from Jamaica. So like, my dad worked at Johnson & Johnson for 25 years. My mom worked for the Trenton School District in New Jersey for about the same amount of time. Their idea of what it is to make it is different. Theirs is about establishing stability. This hopping around, I think, is a thing they had to realize was generational and also just not my path. But they've been very supportive, and I think are now extremely.
I mean, you showed them the other way. You showed them like what you guys did, was possible. Now you showed them that it's possible on this end by hard work, work ethic, and going after and doing what you love. Quickly, Key and Peele, how did you? Because you mentioned a couple times, like it just fell, like it just came to you, like not by accident, but it's just kind of like one of those things. Like, holy shit, like really, how did that happen? Like, what's the quick story to that? Like, because you went from was it your job, your 9-to-5 job, advertising, and then improvising, and all of a sudden now it's like, hey guys, I'm leaving. I'm gonna write for Key and Peele.
Yeah, and I gave them 4 days. I gave my advertising job 4 days notice.
Oh, damn. Not even
that's
2 weeks.
That's how quick it was.
Oh wow.
So the short story is, when I was seeing you at like the jams and all that stuff, and in the scene, just doing shows, I got an agent. She was sending me out for acting stuff for maybe a year or so, and then I wrote a pilot. She read that pilot, and I wrote it because I was like, honestly, for the same reason I wrote the play.
Yeah.
I was like, well, let me write the pilot I want to be in since I can't book one.
Yeah.
She read it and was like, I'm going to represent you for literary now. And then about 3 months after that, I don't know how it works at agencies, but a memo came across her desk, an email that was like, Key and Peele's looking for a Black writer. Because I think their careers were on a rocket ship and they were about to go do Fargo or something. So they wanted another voice in the room. She said, would you be interested? I said, absolutely. So now the crazy part about this story is that basically the next day she was like, I told them all about you. They're very excited. Can you send, I'd done this thing called like Mr. Popular. I'd done a couple other things. She was like, can you send me those videos? I want to send it to them. Now, I thought that meant things were moving fast, so I didn't have to write a packet. So a week went by, and the night before I had to submit the packet, my agent emails me. It was like, hey, how's the packet going? And I was like, what are you talking about? I thought the videos I sent was my packet because I thought you said things were moving fast. She's like, oh, we had a miscommunication. So I basically wrote my Key and Peele packet in a night, just an all-nighter.
What is a packet?
Immediate?
So basically,
sample writing.
Basically, the assignment was 4 to 6 sketches that could be put on the air for Key and Peele.
Oh, damn!
Tomorrow.
And you had to do that night.
Yeah.
Well, that was great practice.
Yeah, I had a couple ideas in the pocket.
Yeah.
But I hadn't written any sketches specifically for that packet. There was like one sketch I think that I ended up like rewriting a little bit that I ended up including. But I wrote the packet in an all-nighter, didn't sleep. I sent it to her. She said, this is really good. And then she was like, do you feel comfortable with me sending? I think this is all really good. Seems to have good games and stuff. And I was like, I got this idea for this one sketch. It was called King is Watching. And basically it's like this sketch where it's 1964. The Civil Rights Act is just passed. And the whole premise of the sketch is that Keegan goes up to a water fountain, but then like a white guy sneezes on the white water fountain. And so he goes to use the black one, even though he can use the other one now. And then Dr. King comes out of nowhere and it's like, hey, my brother, didn't you hear? You've overcome. Use the white fountain. And he's like, oh, but he's like, no, that white guy, he was gross. He was gross. I don't want to. He's like, don't call your fellow man gross. We are all one under God. Use the white water fountain, my brother. Feel last,
That's funny.
So it's like we did the water fountain, we did the bus, you know what I mean? We did the restaurant. Like someone gross was in the front of the bus, so he wants to go to the back, and the King's like, no, my brother, sit in the front of the bus.
That's funny.
You can imagine what it is when they go to the bathroom. Like, I want to use the white bathroom is not good. I want to use the black bathroom. And so I write that sketch over my lunch break at my ad job. I send it to her. I get hired. Give them 4 days notice, fly out on a Saturday, start the job on a Monday. I think it was December 9th.
Oh, because it was in LA.
It was in LA. I moved,
wow.
Yeah. I had my apartment. So I came back 2 weeks later to like really move my stuff out. But I started very, very soon. And so about 2 weeks in, we would go to this place, Delancey's, right next to Sunset Gower where we write. And I was talking to Jordan. He was like, man, like your packet was great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like very clear, like, we had a lot and blah, 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 I was like, geez, this is crazy. I'm sitting across from Jordan Peele and he's telling me my packet's good. And then he was like, he was like, oh, and that King is Watching sketch, that was the one. That was the one where I was like, we have to hire him. Like the sketch that I wrote in the absolute 12th hour was the sketch that was the sketch. Yeah, on my lunch break was the sketch that essentially got me the job on Key Peele. So that's how it happened.
That was the message that you got to like, yo, you better bang this one out. Like that was because if you didn't feel it, you know what I'm saying, you wouldn't. And what I love about it is that you honored it. It was like, well, this is one sketch. Like there's this intuition that you had. Your spirit was like, nah, get that shit out.
You didn't doubt it. You're like, as a matter of fact, give him this one.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think my agent could tell too. I was like, if I got an hour, I think I could bang this sketch out. And I think she could tell that. And I think I told her the premise too. So kudos to her for being like,
yeah, definitely.
This shit might pop. So yeah.
How was it just working with those dudes? Just like,
incredible.
Just
they're geniuses. Both of them. I'd say Jordan is just a machine with the pen. As you can see now, he just transitioned to be one of the greatest horror directors ever. But his writing sensibility is so sharp. Keegan is too, but I'd say Keegan's ultimate strength, like his superpower, is being on set and improvising on set. Like it's just like it's unreal how much energy. He can just focus and make so specific on the spot. It's crazy. So that is a little two-headed monster. You got somebody who with their pen game is just crazy, and then someone who could take that pen game on set and be like, here's 10 ideas, blah, 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 based off of this dope thing that you wrote before. So they're great guys. The hours were amazing. It was an amazing, unreal introduction to LA.
Nice, man. That's awesome. Well, we're almost done. I'm sorry. I feel like we could talk forever. I really probably got to do it.
It's great talking to you.
We're going to move into this segment. It's called Let's Look Inside. And it's basically 3 questions for this segment. And with whatever comes to mind, you don't have to like, if like, you know, give like 5 paragraphs. If it's just one word, go for it. Okay. So the first question is, what do you love about yourself?
I love my curiosity.
Nice.
The second question is, what does the American dream mean to you?
The American dream means honoring your passion and finding a platform to honor your passion.
Now, this one, I'm very interested because you've done so much already. But it says, if the average lifespan was 40 years old, how would you live your life differently?
I think I would do exactly what I'm doing right now. And then I would take the last 6 months and just travel the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
The last thing, we got these cards that have like different questions and stuff like that about life,
to
or
make you look deep and
so it's a race shuffle. She's gonna pick one and she's gonna ask you though.
Great, I love this.
What is the most challenging thing you're dealing with right now?
Ooh.
Allocation of time. I think Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And what are you afraid of?
What am I afraid of? I am afraid of the state of America.
You was gonna talk about the allocating of time.
Yeah. What was the question again? It was
what is the most challenging thing
for you?
Yeah, right now it is figuring out. I'm at a spot where I'm really getting to do things I enjoy, but it's balancing not spreading myself too thin while also doing as much as I can, and it's finding that balance. And I think I actually think that like overworking to a degree where you don't get personal time, you don't get time to chill, I don't think that's good for my creativity personally. I'm not that type of person that's like, I'm spread at both ends and I'm not happy, and that's when I make my best stuff. It's not when I make my best stuff. So it's sorry, something just banged in my room. Doing a lot of things, but still having a life and having a personal life and having a social life, I think is the thing that has been hard, but also it's the best problem. Do you know what I mean? So right. It's a problem that I think is just more of a new level of creativity that I'm just having to sort through right now.
And also, you was going to also dive deeper into that, which I wanted to know, the state of America that you're afraid of. And we cut you off, but
no, that's okay.
You was going to say something more that I was intrigued about.
Yeah, it's like I can't really watch the news, and I feel like there's so much. Misinformation is like the buzzword, but it feels like people's convictions are scary. Like not really like preaching equality, but then clearly not really being about that life. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Someone's like dropping something outside. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So it just.
And you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they hear me, right? Yeah. I just feel like it almost feels like people of color are being gaslit in this country, and we're being told that like we should be thankful for where we're at and what we have. Meanwhile, it's like there's historical context, deep-rooted historical and institutional proof and context for why things need to improve. And I feel like we had a black president, and it seemed like a couple steps forward, and then seems like we've taken like 8 steps back, and it's almost like this dark underbelly of America has been flipped. So now it's bold. It's in your face. They don't care. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's scary to me. And I think I worry about myself. I worry about my family. I worry about my little nieces and nephews. I worry about the climate, even the climate part, where it's like denying that like the California's on fire. It's like not an accident. You know what I mean?
Yep. And so the earthquakes too. That's over there,
bro. Let's talk about it. So it's like all that stuff. I'm worried about the world we live in, and I'm worried about the world that I'm creating my art, quote unquote, in, because it affects everything. Do you know what I mean? And it is hard. It took some time for me to get back into a creative mindset during this whole quarantine and pandemic of it all, because everything just felt so bleak for a while. And I'm just thankful that I have friends and family that I could lean on during that time. So that's kind of what I'm afraid
of. There's something that popped in my head. It seems like that how important it is for you, because I see you, I'm have so much that I'm trying to filter right now.
Sure.
It seems like, what is the ultimate goal for you? Because it seems like eventually you would want to, and I see you creating something that you can put your other friends and homies who are talented on as well on the show.
Absolutely.
And work with them. Kind of like Issa Rae created her platform, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Jordan and Key and Peele, they created a platform, and I see that for you, where like you create something that's yours, but at the same time you not forgetting the people that were talented that you was running up the game with, and like, yo, come on and let's assemble and let's get it.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what I'm going to do. I love rom-coms, to get specific.
Yeah.
I would love to have the like style, but with my own lens, of a James L. Brooks. He did like I think like Newsroom. He did Spanglish. He did he's done a bunch of bangers. I would love to have bring the squad upness of an Issa Rae, of a Judd Apatow. Like just bring up your friends, work with the homies. And I would love to have like the slice of life heart feature lane of like a Noah Baumbach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you can pull out the heartstrings, to your point about what you saw in my sketches from years ago, like so it's like I would love to write features. I would love to have a camp write and produce TV, and I would just love to be a creator and a producer as well.